Okay. Can you hear me now? Oh, it may not be the best audio. I had to completely reset everything. So hopefully, okay, good. I'm not sure how good the audio is, but at least we have audio. So sorry about that, y'all. I have no idea why that was not happening. Okay, well, welcome everyone. So most of the chat now was I can't hear you, but welcome everyone. I'm so glad to have y'all here. So it's been a while. It's been a little bit since I've gone live with y'all. I always love going live because it's a lot of fun to kind of have that live interaction. So let me know how y'all are doing. It is very much summertime here in Florida. I am even sweating now, probably because my audio wasn't working live. That also could happen as well. So this is just going to be a general I have some information to share with y'all, kind of some updates, and open up for questions as well. So first of all, I know some of y'all have asked for updates of my husband. So he's doing well. We actually had an appointment with the neurosurgeon today, and his spine, the alignment and everything is actually looking good. And he was able to take his brace off. He doesn't have to wear his big back brace anymore, which is awesome. So he is very happy to not have to wear that anymore, but we definitely still have a very long journey to go. So just know for y'all who I do try, since this is not what this channel is about, I do try to keep that off, or at least to a minimum with this channel. But feel free to you can follow our Support Now page. I'm putting that in the chat right now. Okay, so that's our Support Now page. And I actually do post updates to that page. So you can choose to follow it, and you actually just get an email every time I post an update. So periodically, I probably will post something about it to this channel, but overall, those regular type of updates, I keep off this channel to not bog it down. Okay. Other than that, let me see here. Oh, thank you for those we do really appreciate y'all praying for us, for your patience with things. I know I got pretty spotty there with videos, trying to get those out where we just kind of went into survival mode. But we're starting to kind of adjust to a new normal, at least new normal right now. Who knows what that may look like later on. All right. Another thing is, some of y'all, I know I met at the homeschool convention last week. I was able to still go, even though my husband was not able to go. He was supposed to be there, but it was really great to meet several of y'all in person, and also actually to speak in person. It wasn't just me talking to a camera. I actually was talking in front of human beings, and that was a lot of fun. I was really honored to be invited. And if you were there, shout out in either the comments if you're watching the replay, or in the chat if you were there. And especially if I met you and you're new, let me know. But it was really great to meet and talk with many people about real whole grains, and all from a biblical perspective, about milling, and all of that. So it was a lot of fun. Okay, so big news. We need to talk about grain mills because I know so many people. I recently did an updated video about how to be choosing your grain mill, and then all grain mills are out of stock at the moment. I will say, this is obviously a crazy year, because especially when it comes to Nutrimill products, the Wonder Mill, those type of grain mills, I have in the past few years, I have not seen them continuously go out of stock like we're seeing this year. And personally, I have some theories about that. I think it's two different things going on. First of all, I think we're back on a uptick of the interest of home milling, which is wonderful. More people being interested in actually real whole grains and milling their own wheat. So I think it's kind of, once again, kind of peaking in popularity. But on top of that, this year has been a little crazy as far as trade and the tariffs kind of going back and forth. And I think that's just made trade overall a little bit unstable and crazy. And so I think that is kind of what's causing delays with grain mills being put back in stock. So it's kind of, we kind of got two things going on. But I do have some information about when certain ones are coming out of stock. Okay, so Becky says, saw the Nutrimil Classic available today on their site. You know, it's funny because I literally looked and I did not see that available. Let me look right now, especially because they stated that one was coming back in. Oh, well, it maybe let me check on the Classic. Okay. Yeah, it actually does look like that the Nutrimil Classic is back in stock on the Nutrimil website. Now, remember, any Nutrimil product, I do recommend buying from Nutrimil themselves. The reason I'm not looking at the camera is I'm getting something for y'all, because I actually have a $20 off coupon code with Nutrimil. So that's something with that. So, okay, let me put that in. So for any Nutrimil grain mill, you can go here and use code. Let me check here. Yeah, grains 20 for $20 off. Okay, so that's now in the link. All right. Okay, so any Nutrimil product, buy directly from them because you can usually just stack on an extra $20. A lot of times they do allow this code to be used even if there's a sale going on. So I definitely recommend that. But here's the ETAs for that. So the Nutrimil Classic is back in stock on Nutrimil's website. Now the Nutrimil Impact is still sold out, but that one, they are saying that should be back in stock late June. So be on the lookout for that. The Nutrimil Classic, they were saying first week of June. So it looks like it's a little bit early. All the Nutrimil Harvest, they are saying late May, considering tomorrow was the end of May, to early June. So as of today, they were not back in stock. But be on the lookout for that for the harvest late May to early June. So sometime very soon. And if you follow me on Instagram over there, I usually do try to post pretty quickly when things come up. And because people are looking for grain mills, I'll also try to post on YouTube in the on my post as well to let you guys know. But that's what's going on with Nutrimil products. So that's the Nutrimil Harvest, which is their stone grind mill, the Nutrimil Classic, and the Nutrimil Impact, which are their impact grain mills. So that's what we're looking at, and hopefully they'll remain in stock. but we will see. I was seeing with Nutrimil, I don't think you can order it on back order. I think you just have to wait for them to come up in stock. Okay. Oh, Jackie asked, do you have a discount code for a Nutrimil Artiste? Yes, that discount code is not just for grain mills. It's anything on Nutrimil's website. So their grain mills, their mixers, and do know that I will talk about this. Nutrimil is about to do a little Father's Day sale. It's not on any sort of grain mills or mixers. It's kind of a smaller sale, but that is going to be starting on June 2nd. And basically what I can see is based on the amount of your order, you get some free products. Several of it looks like kind of some new stuff that they have, which is really cool. So that actually starts June 2nd and it's good through the 15th. And you still can use my affiliate code to get an extra, to still get that $20 off. Okay. So now let's talk about other mixers. So the Como grain mills, Pleasant Hill Grain is the exclusive, what's it called, distributor for any Como grain mill. And according to Pleasant Hill Grain, their Como Classic, I didn't look at all of the Como grain mills. The Como is kind of their most popular, the Como Classic. They're saying July 9th is estimated time of it coming back in stock. So July is it. You can pre-order, so you can go ahead and get in line. And same thing with Mock Mill. They're saying July 10th on their website. You can pre-order, and it is advised. So that's with the Como and the Mock Mill. And I think those take a bit longer to come in stock because those are both European products. So, we got to wait for the whole thing to be shipped over. Okay. Karen said she got an email today saying the Black Harvest grain mill is available. Yeah, you have to click on each of the harvest, which I did not do, to see which ones are in stock. So let me check on that harvest. Oh, funny, because I just checked on it. Sure enough. Yeah, the Harvest Black grain mill is in stock. Let me check these. Oh, yeah, and the white. So, okay, it looks like several of the Harvest are back in stock. Let me see. So, black, not the bronze. Yeah, we got the gold in stock. The silver is in stock. The white is in stock. The green, and I think the red is in stock. So it looks like that really cool bronze color that I absolutely love is still sold out. But you can click on to be notified when they come back in. So that's really great. The Nutrimil Harvest is back in stock for most of the colors. And again, that Father's Day sale starts just this Monday. And so with that, you can they'll throw in some free gifts for that. I can't tell you the exact details right now. I'm just letting you know that you get some free goodies if you wait until June 2nd to June 15th to get some free goodies. Okay, let me check here. And I did check on the Bread Becker's website, and most of their grain mills are also sold out. They have an ETA for the Wonder Mill for June 5th. On Pleasant Hill Grain, they're saying July 16th for the Wonder Mill. So if you're looking at that one, that's what it's looking like for that. But yeah, that's the craziness of grain mills. But good news is they're coming back in stock right now and will be slowly coming back in stock. So I would recommend, especially if you have your eye on the Como mill or the Mock mill, to go ahead and just pre-order it, because I know especially with Pleasant Hill Grain, they always fill those pre-orders first as soon as they get a shipment in. So it may or may not even be available for you to get when they get a shipment in, because they may just be filling all the pre-orders. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. Let me see here. So that's basically the lowdown on the grain mills. Let me know if you have any questions about the grain mills. Again, I did a recent video updating about how to choose a grain mill if you still do not know what to decide. Okay. Sherry says she waited 3 months for the Mock mill. It was a bummer, but it was worth the wait. Let me see. Angie, yeah, saw Sue Becker being interviewed on Alex Carr's channel right after that video. Bread Becker website crashed. I heard about that. That's crazy. But she was able to buy Wonder Mill the next day. That's really great. Okay. Jean says she did a presentation at a mom's group lately, and there's a lot of interest. Yay. I love it when I hear people sharing the good news about milling your own grains and everything like that. Okay, so Narrow Ways Farms asks, lost the comment. I have the Nutrimil Impact. I'm milling a bunch. Should I switch to a stone mill, or can the Impact be used 3 to 5 times a day? Honestly, with those Impact grain mills, they are workhorses. If you are milling a lot, I actually recommend the Impact grain mills. They are faster. They are fine flour with a simple push of a button every single time. So if you're doing a lot and you're really just needing just regular flour for bread baking and things like that, then your Impact mill probably is just as fine. Just be mindful with any grain mill. If you notice like, this is maybe getting a little too hot, maybe just give it a little bit of a break. But I'm a power user and I've never even had an issue with that. Kim asked, are there any impact mills that are relatively quiet? No. I'm sorry. The impact mills, they are higher wattage. They are more powerful. And with that, they definitely are louder. Your stone grind mills, at least the Nutrimill Harvest that I have, is a little bit quieter than my impact grain mills. But even when grinding the grains, that's still kind of loud, but not as high pitched, I would say, as an impact mill. Okay. Let me see. Any other questions? Okay. Flat and Gravy says, I have the impact, a bit of a pain to clean. The stone mill looks easier on the cleaning. I kind of would say that I think that may be I would think that might be almost subjective because impact grain mills can be pretty simple to clean with just a simple brush, where some people might say, no, just the fact that I have to remove the stones, it's a little bit more irritating to clean. So I think it just really depends. Those stone grind mills, to start off with, you could just run some white rice through it, and that will probably just be cleaned enough. Where your impact grain mills, you do, like, especially those lids, you need to make sure like the flour doesn't get caked on and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that may be subjective because I have both, and which one do I think is easier to clean? I don't know. This is a question I need to think about. I would need to think about. All righty. Okay, Antonia, the impact mills are hilarious. I laugh every time because it makes me think of a jet engine. Truth. And then Angie says, I have to wait. I hate having to wait until the kids wake up to start milling. I think this will depend on your kids. If they sleep like a rock, you may not have a problem. But do know this is why sometimes, especially if I know I'm going to be needing to get up even earlier than usual to bake something. This is mainly when it comes to when I'm making muffins that we're taking to go the next morning. I usually just mill the flour the night before, so at least I don't have to worry about that. It also makes it a little faster come the morning time as well. So feel free to do that. If you have plans of milling early in the morning, feel free to mill the night before. It's okay. It's okay. But yeah, my kids typically don't wake up. They sleep like rocks. Okay. Jean asked, do you pop the flour in the freezer when you mill the night before? I do not, mainly because I don't do it often. So most of the time when I mill, it is fresh, and then I'm baking pretty much, I'm starting the process of baking right away. So usually I don't, and even so those few times, maybe once a week where I mill the night before, I'm not worried about if there's some nutrients oxidized because we are getting plenty of it with other types of breads that we make. So I don't stress out about it. If you want to pop it in the freezer, feel free. It's not going to hurt anything. Totally fine to do that. Okay. So let me check out my notes here. Yeah. So anyways, let me know if you have any general questions with home milling, with grain mills, everything like that. Let me see. Yeah, Grandma Donna says, I have a Wonder Mill and a Harvest Mill, and I love both. The Wonder Mill does mill finer flour, so it's the one I use the most. Yeah, I would say I love having both. Personally, I love having both types for many different reasons. Clay says, what's the best mill type recommendation for a beginner? Excellent question. There are many factors to consider. First of all, that Nutrimill Impact grain mill I made right now. Let me see here, making sure I'm on the right side. Okay, so that Impact grain mill is coming in at what, like $200, I believe. And then you also have my coupon code that you can get to take $20 off of that. That is an excellent mill, I think, to start with, especially because you're not investing like the $400, $500, $600, $700 that other grain mills cost. And with an Impact, with this is all confusing. With the Nutrimill Impact grain mill, it's still going to get you great fine flour. I think that is an excellent mill for beginners, especially if you're just a little about with your budget. Like especially if you're trying to pinch pennies with your budget, that's an excellent mill. I think it's also a good mill probably to just stick with. But that is certainly one that the Impact I definitely recommend because it's easy to use. It gets you that flour for bread baking. And I did do a full review video about that on my YouTube channel. Okay. So excellent question, mill for beginner. And I love that Nutrimill came out with that grain mill because it's definitely, I think, a bit easier for people to get started with it. Okay. Antonia says, which setting is best for when you mill for grits and which corn, white or yellow? So if you want to do grits or cream of wheat, you need a stone grind mill because those Impact grain mills are going to do it too fine for grits. So you need a stone grind mill. And basically I set it to where it mills what I know grits should look like, basically. So it's still coarse. Now I did a video about grits. So even with stone grind grits, you still need to sift it because there's still going to be finer flour in there. You don't want the fine flour in with the grits because then it comes out really gummy in your grits. So you still need to save that fine flour for your cornbread. So killing two birds with one stone here. And then what's left is great for grits. And I really need to do an updated video about grits, but you need a stone grind mill. And as far as the corn goes, I do use dent corn, but, and it's usually like an organic corn that I use. And I usually use yellow just because I think I like the flavor a bit more with the yellow corn, but white corn will be fine as well. Okay. Narrow Waste Farms. When are you ready to get a second mill? Give me an excuse. Yeah, again, I have 5 grain mills, so I'm totally an enabler. But I will say, if you're one who really likes grits, cream of wheat on a regular basis, as well as fine flour, you can do that with a stone grind mill. But I personally love having my impact mills for just that fine flour every time, where I have the stone grind mill set to my coarser setting, so I'm not having to adjust it from the fine to the coarse and back again. So personally, I do love having both. Okay, so Kimberly says, I have a Nutrimill Harvest that I use the most, but I don't know what kind of corn to buy because I can't mill anything with much oil. Kimberly, I mill dent corn in my Nutrimill Harvest just fine. And that's perfectly fine to mill corn. You can mill corn, dried corn in your grain mills. That is fine. But typically I just use a dent corn, which if you go to Azure Standard, that's the dried corn that they're selling. And I always like to use organic, so I'm avoiding the GMOs. So that is me. Okay, so excellent questions. Any other questions? Okay, and if you hear hysterical laughing in the background, I think my family is watching something funny, and I don't know if you're picking it up on the audio. Okay. Yeah, LA says, I used to have the Nutrimill Classic, sold it, got the mock mill for its versatility, and now I have a Wonder Mill Impact mill ordered. Yeah, that's the beauty of it. Is really when you get going with this, you're going to know, like, this is what I want to do. And if you're a power user, it's totally fine. Okay. But I love I love that. And CR says, I have the Nutrimil Classic and the Mock Mill. I have found that the Nutrimil produces the best fine flour for bread. The Mock Mill is my go-to for grinding corn. Yes, I will say, to be perfectly honest, I do believe, and with my experience, it is far easier to get fine flour with your impact grain mills than with a stone grind mill. I fully agree. You can get fine flour with those stone grind mills, but you really just have to make sure the settings are correct. So it is way easier with an impact grain mill. I definitely agree. Okay, Clay asks, what's the best heart healthy grain to use? Clay, good news. That is any whole grain. Wheat is definitely king wheat, but whole grains overall is good for heart for your heart. Just whole grain. So get the whole grain, mill it fresh, or even consume it whole. And whole grains with that fiber, the B vitamins, all of those things, it's great. So I would say just any whole grain will be great. But wheat is certainly king as far as all the grains go, with 40 out of 44 essential nutrients. It's definitely the way to go. All right. Jill asks, can you use a food processor for the corn to make grits? That may depend on your food processor. I personally haven't tried it. You certainly can do it if you have a powerful blender like the Vitamix or the Blendtec. You can do it in there. I personally have not tried it in my food processor. And I have I got to look here, the Cuisinart 14 cup. So it's large. And I'm going to have to try it. I haven't tried it. I would think there would be some difficulty getting it, mainly because that blade sits about an inch above the bottom. So I'm going to have to try it. All righty. So good questions. Apparently I need to do an updated video about grits because we got a lot of questions about grits. And I have changed my method a little bit to make it better. All right. Antonio says, do you still use your Zojirushi bread maker? Any updated thoughts? Yeah, I do. So again, I'm a large family. So doing one loaf at a time that's gone like that, like one meal and it's gone. But I do love having it because there are still moments where, we're out of bread and I need bread in the morning. And I can just throw everything into the bread machine and we'll have bread for at least breakfast the next morning. I love that. I also know that the bread machine was the first, I'm completely blanking. Hold on. I taught my oldest how to mill and make bread in the bread machine first. That was the easiest to teach a child. I would say even someone as young as 8, depending on the child and depending on the grain mill that you have. I mean, they just need to follow like the order. They can dump it in and push start. So I love it as far as it's easy to teach someone else to do it as opposed to actually making the dough by hand. So I still like it. I still use it. I think it's excellent for now. I will say my bread comes out a bit lighter when I actually do it, the mixer, and I'm baking it in the oven. But the Zojirushi is great for those moments when I need it. All right. Let's see. Okay, I've only been milling. Andrew says, I've been milling for a couple months now. Already had to retire my poor little KitchenAid and got a Bosch since that's the one I see me use a lot. And wow, what a difference. Agreed. Flat and Gravy says that they love the bread maker. Elspeth says, why does my bread come out soft, but after a day or so it turns crumbly and wants to fall apart? Okay, so this can be a few things. First of all, make sure the bread is baked all the way, which you would probably know right off the bat if it was already a bit too gummy or doughy on the inside. But this could also be just a shaping issue. If it's not being kind of shaped tight enough, then everything could already be a bit loose whenever it's baked. Third thing, you also need to make sure that the bread is completely cooled down before slicing it open. And 4, make sure that you are storing it correctly where you're not drying it out. So make sure it's in an airtight container, in like a plastic bag or some sort of bread bag that is keeping, that is not drying it out as much. Now you will have, it is normal after a few days, to have a little bit of crumble, but it shouldn't be falling apart. But I find, I think the folding is probably the folding and the shaping of the bread loaf, I think, has more to do with it than anything else, just from experience that I've had actually recently. Okay. Let me see here. Yeah, so very good questions. Very good questions, y'all. Any other questions? Because we're coming up on 40 minutes, 40 minutes, 35 minutes. Yep. And minus 5 minutes where I didn't have any volume. So I'm glad y'all can hear me. All right. Yep. So I want to thank y'all so very much for sticking around. Oh, Angie asked, do you slice the whole loaf and then store? No. I slice off what I need because remember, each time you slice open that bread, it's more likely going to have, it's going to dry it out faster. A slice of bread is going to dry out faster than the loaf. So in a loaf, that outside might dry out faster, but at least that inside isn't going to dry out as much. So no, I slice it as I go. Jody says, have you ever used a spiral mixer? I have not. Yeah, I'm not even sure of the technology there. But yeah, I am not sure. Okay, so does anyone else get an acetone smell on their bread? Oh, that would not be good. Jackie asked that. That is weird. Yeah, I would say that is weird. That I would check your bread pans to make sure there's nothing weird going on with the bread pans. That would be my first thing I would check. So there you go. Okay, Anne is asking, do I have a pasta recipe? I have not posted one onto my YouTube channel. I'm thinking, no, I haven't. But in my Kamut course, I did do a course on about Kamut. And I have found that Kamut, in my experience, does the best for pasta. And in that course, I actually do teach you all about how to make pasta with Kamut. So I actually will link that in the, here we go. Let me see here. So I have linked that in the chat. But no, I actually haven't done one on my channel yet. All right. So Kimberly says, when using your impact mill, do you sift it and remill the larger pieces? Nope. I find with my impact mills, I never need to. It's perfectly fine. All righty. Okay, y'all, I think we're going to wrap it up. So should there be much difference in hard white and hard red? I used hard white today and it was totally different. Yes, Judy, that's a good question. I do find that hard red. Well, not only is there a taste difference, the hard red is going to give you a nuttier type flavor. I do find, though, that hard red just tends to do better with a yeast loaf. It tends to stay together better, where hard white can actually be a little bit softer. It's probably not super noticeable, but I definitely notice it. So I do think there's a difference. And honestly, the Butler's Gold from 4 Generations Organic Farms, I will say, I think is my favorite hard red wheat that I have used to date. Something about that hard red wheat, it does beautifully every single time. I've used other hard reds where they're a little too soft for yeast bread loaves, but that one just gives me consistent, great loaves of bread every single time. And yeah, I will show you, if you're not familiar with 4 Generations, that is an organic wheat berry. Again, it's their Butler's Gold. That's my favorite. I will link that in the chat. Okay, and use code Grains and Grit for 10% off first order. But I love 4 Generations. I really do. That is my go-to hard red. I will always and forever use it because it's one of my favorites. Antonia asked, did you make the pasta by hand or with a pasta maker machine? In my course, I show you how to do both, using a mixer and also doing it by hand. Okay. Yeah, Jean, please report your source for hard red. Yeah, so that Butler's Gold, that's by far my favorite hard red wheat. Something about it, I truly love. I just love. It just does beautifully every time. Okay. Yep. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, y'all. It's been 40 minutes. I appreciate y'all joining me here. And also thank you again so much for all of your patience with me being a little sporadic. We're getting back to it now with the videos. But again, if you have any other questions, link them in the comments below. I will try to get to them if I can. But otherwise, I thank you for all your support and your prayers for my family during this crazy time we're going through. And as always, y'all have a great day. And I will see y'all next week and have a good evening as well. Bye.